All right, and without further ado, this guy, he was one of my last guests on the Morning Rush when I was at WLUW. I don't even remember. I remember we talked last year. I don't remember it was like mad hot too. it was like just like crazy hot. Um and he came through and we just had a great conversation. And I'm talking about my brother in arms.
Yo,
How are you, sir?
I'm well, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm just, I got this new outlet that I'm just really excited about.
Yeah.
I'm glad I can reconnect with people like you.
Well,
I'm just excited.
yeah, likewise, man. And I think it's also just good to have an excuse to reconnect with you on any platform. You know,
Yes. I know it's been a while, and I know you've been mad busy. Congratulations on getting married to
hey, thank
you
you,
and your
man.
wife, man. That's fantastic. That's great news. I wish you all the best, man. I know you guys are love each other, and it's expressed through the social media posts. That's fantastic, man.
Word, that's love, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
As someone who's been in a long-term relationship for nearly 2 decades,
Oof.
I will pray for you. That's all I
Yeah.
got for you is prayers and hope.
Yeah, that's appreciated. I mean, so far, married life has been pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It's
No,
been
it's fantastic.
really dope. Yeah.
I think I laugh at people who kind of are like, nah, man, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. It's a comfortable feeling knowing that you have someone that equally loves you and supports you and has your back, and wants is driving you to improve yourself. So, like having that person in your corner. If you have that person in your corner, then do right by them. But it's like there's nothing else like it, and then if you're and for us, we started a family and the kids are fantastic and we've been able to grow. 10 years ago we were living out of, not even 10 years ago, 5 years ago we're living out of a basement, and now we've grown so much and done so much in that time span, that it's like there's no one better that I would want to have gone on this journey with than my wife. So I'm
Word.
sure you'll experience the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's fantastic to hear. I had no idea. I had no
Yeah.
idea. That's an amazing journey for real.
The basement life wasn't that bad because
Okay.
I live with my mother-in-law, who's a fantastic woman. I,
Okay.
I love her like more than anything else. And to just be like, have someone scream down like, yo, dinner's ready. It's like, man, like, bro, like, yes. So,
Nostalgic. You know what I mean? How are
yeah.
you guys how are you guys dealing with remote learning? How's that going?
It's not so bad.
Hmm.
So he's at a charter network, so he does.
Okay.
So his schedule varies a lot different than that of CPS, and so he has like half days on Wednesdays, and then sometimes they'll throw in like, all right, cool, the kids are off half day Thursdays too, and I'm like, why? And I don't know. It's just like they just have a lot more freedom to like change and adapt and do different things. Like they're not held to the same, like, I don't want to say standards, but that there's a lot more flexibility with them, because he was at a CPS his entire learning career, and we just made a
Mhm.
journey. We just didn't feel that was the best space for him, and we thought we'd try something different. Not that I'm neither pro public school. We tried it. It was everything right now is for his best, for what's best for him. And so
Right.
the teachers are really great. They're
Dope.
honest with the kids, and we'll talk about this from your experience. They're
Yeah.
honest with the kids. They're like, yo, I never taught math before through the computer, but we're gonna learn this together. And that's real. And I can hear it in the other room. I'm like, that's real. I can appreciate that, So
Yeah.
salute to the teachers. I can't imagine the amount of stress and anxiety that they're equally experiencing, just like the kids. I mean, you're an educator. Are you experiencing some of those similar, feelings?
So there have only been a few things. So there was one day where the Wi-Fi went out in my neighborhood, so I had to cancel class. So
Trash.
that was, and then there was just not really being able to get to know my students. That's been the really tough thing because the kids don't have to have their cameras turned on. and they don't have to have their mics on either. So all day, with a couple of exceptions, I'm staring at a screen full of icons, and then I'm communicating with the kids in the chat, and it's definitely strange. But you know, I think most of the kids just want to get back to in-person instruction, and I think this is such an unprecedented situation. You know, it was like the kids didn't value the community spaces that schools were, I think, until they no longer existed. And now that we're all remote, I think this is, again, with a few exceptions, I think the kids really miss each other and they miss school. And you know, for as stressful as it's been for me, and it's I would argue that remote learning is more mentally draining because you don't get that feedback from the students. So it's like, you know, like as a teaching and emceeing are very similar. It's kind of like you get the energy, you put out the energy, and then you get it back, and then that continues to energize you throughout the day. But to just sit in front of a screen for hours a day and not be able to get that interaction is just, that's the part of it that's been the most difficult, for sure.
No, and I hear that a lot from some of my teacher friends, and they're just like you don't know if the kids are struggling. You can't read the room, and you know, and unfortunately, for a lot of kids, they're not in the best living situations, so they don't feel comfortable opening that window to their home life.
Right.
And we have to find a way to respect that boundary, but also a way to kind of like read them to see if they're understanding and comprehending it, the information that they're gathering. So it's very tricky. And you know, and it's a brand new world. And I was just talking to someone today that, you know, we took we were so fortunate to like go to a meeting and then like spend a couple minutes before the meeting chatting someone up and just talking to someone, or you know, sitting next to someone you're comfortable with. And then you know, like all that's gone. Kids don't have any of that. They're there by themselves for the most part, are doing this. And the parents, and I can speak from just being a parent, that you know, the stuff that he's doing, it's not that I don't understand it, it's just that he just doesn't want the help, or he's just like, I got this. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm giving him his space. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of parents who are also just like, I don't either understand it, or I'm just giving them their space, which is just a totally different dynamic. But I'd say this, that the teachers that I'm talking to, everyone's being super aggressive and like keeping the parents up to date on what's happening with the kids, who's struggling. And that's all we really can do, you know. And I'm sure like you would agree, like this form of learning for younger kids is not the best. It's not even equal to what in person means, but this is the best we got, and we just got to deal with what we got.
Absolutely. And where I teach, which I just don't want to put that out there, but the city I teach in, which is a northern suburb, has a really high COVID rate. One of the highest in the state. And so, you know, the thing that I try to convey to the students when we're talking about this is the least ideal way to do this, but it's the only way for us to do it until there's a vaccine and until we can ensure that you guys are going to be safe and healthy. And, you know, until we can ensure that your teachers are going to be safe and healthy too, because the school that I work in definitely has a lot of teachers who are in the age range that's the most vulnerable when it comes to COVID. And, you know, I already have a couple of coworkers who have gotten it. Some of our students have gotten it. Some of our students, unfortunately, have lost parents. So, I mean, it's the importance of, for all of the jokes that people make about COVID and for all of the weird politicizing of whether or not to wear masks, which is still ridiculous to me.
Yep.
We gotta look out for each other right now more than ever, because the people who should be looking out for us are not doing so. And so, you know, that's what I try to tell the kids, that maybe not explicitly, but I try to tell the kids that so that they really understand the gravity of the situation and why we can't rush to get back into school.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's tough being a kid these days, you know, and even during the summer, my son, like, I'm working, and it's like I'm just one of those parents that, like, I just started to let him go outside by himself, and then maybe like a few weeks after we're kind of like comfortable with him riding around the neighborhood, and he started to learn where everything is, and he knew how to get back home, you know, the streets, everything started to become more familiar. And then like someone got shot like 2 blocks away. It's like, well, there goes that idea. So you're just stuck in the house all the time. And I was like, I feel bad for you that you're just living your life through the Switch and your iPad, but it's like it's dangerous with the disease out there, and then it's dangerous with just regular city violence that can occur at any moment. So it's just tough across the board for children at all, and it's, you know, this is gonna have a drastic generational impact on our kids. Yeah. We don't know yet what it's gonna look like, and for decades ahead, but we're definitely gonna see an experience like that. There's gonna be a decline and something because of the education. The students were gone a month last year with the strike, and then they were home the rest of the time, and then now they're home again. It's like that's something has to equate to a negative, and I don't know what it's going to look like in a decade or two when we're past this, but something's going to show its face. Well, I want to just check in with you. I'm glad you're doing well, man. Everything's you're working. You and Ad are back to, you guys are doing your writing sessions with the kids. Is that remote or is that in person? How are you guys managing that?
Nah, that's remote. So we went remote around the time the schools did back in March. And so ever since we've been on Zoom for MC Rec Shop, check us out. Young Chicago authors, hit them on social media for the Zoom link. 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday. Please join us. Come rap with us. It's been it really has been kind of like a beacon in dark times, I think, to just know that I have that time, 2 hours a week, to kind of build in communion with Ad, who's an MC who I really respect, both as an artist and an educator, and then also with young people who are also passionate about hip hop from around the city. Because the other thing that I really miss about in-person stuff is having those hip hop conversations and knowing that I can inhabit those spaces with people who know what they're talking about and can chop it up with them about rap. So please join us. You know, even if you're not in the Chicagoland area, one of the cool things about being remote for Rec Shop has been we've been able to have guests come on. So Novelist from Clear Soul Forces actually joined us last trimester. Mickey Fax joined us last trimester, Sketch 185. So we've been fortunate to really have utilized the platform well since we've been remote. And as much as we wish we could be in person, again, the safest, healthiest way for us to do Rec Shop is for us to do it over Zoom. And it's still been a haven for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I still have MC ambitions. I'm just trying to get my bars right so I don't embarrass myself. So
hey, come through.
I might just want to just watch and just like, you know, stalk from, you know, a blank Zoom, turn my camera off and just watch and wait, you know, but we'll see. It's a slot and Ad. They don't believe that I can rap. So I'm, you know, I got to get out there and let them know.
Hey man, as long as you believe in yourself, you know, that's all you need.
That's the damn truth. So then you also, like, this month, you dropping all these loose singles, part of your Droptober campaign. I think the one that stood out to me the most, and I want to get this right, Shelter in Place. And I think that might have been one of the first songs you put out. And that was kind of like just like this story of a couple being in a relationship and the quarantine kind of exposing the flaws in the relationship, because now they're forced to confront and be with each other. and I can't imagine how many. I could imagine, but I wouldn't know the number of how many relationships have broken up because people are like, damn, like I really don't like you. So what was the motivating factor for like writing that story in particular?
So I had the beats. I told Knows the Time, who I worked with on an album called Lacuna that came out last year, as well as an EP called Summer Courses. And then I'm in a group with CrashPrez called Defcee with him and Knows the Time. Shout out to those guys.
Shout out to CrashPrez.
Yeah.
He was one of my last guests on. No, he was my last guest on Big W. Yes, back in December of last year. He's fantastic. I love that guy.
Yeah, man, super cold. And we got the album coming next year too. But anyway, so Shelter in Place, I had the beat, and my first week or so home on COVID when they closed the schools, I was like, finally, I'm getting paid to stay home for a week. I have the studio set up. Let me just go knock out a whole bunch of music. And the thing that I eventually had to come to the conclusion of is that it was very inconsiderate of my wife because, she's dealing with the pandemic in different ways. I'm somebody who's more introverted. She's more extroverted. So the dynamic is a little bit different. And so I can deal with all of the pandemic stuff because it's more at home for me, while it might be a little bit more difficult for her. And I wasn't there for her in the ways that I needed to be. So that whole song is kind of about dealing with, my flaws during the pandemic, as you said, and then trying to reconcile them, and then, trying to make light of it too. Like it wasn't something that, it was something that we were able to work through, and then it led to this really cool song being made about it. And it had a happy ending. We're still together. We made it through quarantine together. We're getting along really well and enjoying married life. So fantastic. Yeah, that's the story behind it.
Oh, these other songs are like, some of them are you're just kind of just barring out, and like you're just really just flexing that you have skills and ability, but sometimes you still kind of drop. I think it was I was listening to this today, Capital One. You kind of like mentioned just sort of like how like white MCs are still like in like rhyming, and do you kind of like, and I know we've talked about this a lot, sort of like your place in hip hop, a predominantly Black culture, and like how do you fit into that space? And I know you kind of like confronted that in a lot of your records, but that's something that seems like a topic that keeps kind of like popping up itself, and you keep addressing it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a white rapper, you don't. Most white rappers, when they talk about being a white rapper, it's about the quote unquote white rapper struggle, which we talked about last summer, is like a thing that doesn't exist. For me, it's more so subverting the whiteness and saying, for any white people who are tuned into me rapping, because let's be real, white people tend to gravitate toward white rappers for obvious reasons. They're into hip hop, and then they see a face that they feel like they can relate to, and then for better or worse gravitate toward it. So I figure while I have that audience, let me let them know where I stand, and let me, kind of poke fun at myself, clown my own whiteness. And then also just, I feel like it's something that I should address. I should be constantly addressing my white privilege or white supremacy or how whiteness operates in hip hop. And I think at this current moment, politically, I think there are a lot of white rappers who have now been motivated to come out and have these tough conversations that maybe they weren't having before. I think there are a lot of white rappers who are doing the work. And then there are a lot of white rappers who are quiet because, frankly, they just don't care. They don't care about police brutality. They don't care about white supremacy. They don't care about racism. It's kind of, it's all for them. Rapping is a hustle. It's all about them and their bag, and they care less about their place within hip hop, and they're culture vultures. And you could say that about a lot of record executives in hip hop as well. So I think it's something that if you're a white rapper, it's not like you have to constantly say I'm white in every rhyme, but you do have to every now and then remind yourself, at the very least in the rap, what your place in hip hop is, so that you're more aware of where you stand, and the fans and the general public are aware of where you stand as well.
Yeah.
So.
I was just I was mentioning at the top that I just started reading the Marcus J. Moore book about Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
The first 10, 20 pages are about Macklemore won the Grammy for best new album and new artist when Kendrick was up for Good Kid, Mad City, which just celebrated its 8th anniversary this week, and how. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm still a Section 80 guy, but
Me too. Me too.
and but the it's like he writes about like how even though Macklemore, I think on the surface did everything possible to say the right thing, that like, look, I know why I won. Everyone knows why I won, but Kendrick should have won. But that's just the way. Like they're like even though he was saying the right things, it still was like an immediate backlash because like why he won.
Yeah.
And I think that and I was kind of like, well, even for you, say, like if you're up for an award and you really feel in your heart of hearts, you're like, I put out the best product, whatever accolades that come with this, I deserve that. And that shouldn't because of my appearance, shouldn't distance myself from the work that I put out there. So it's always something that I, even as a fan of the art, you kind of like just want the art to speak for itself, but there's always these other outside contributing factors that, especially with race in America, it's like you can't help but always wonder and think, like, that person really the best because they're white, or because some contributing factor outside of just being good? And I wonder how you grapple with that.
I mean, with some rappers, I think it's a both and proposition. So like, Eminem was at one point in time, an incredibly gifted rapper who had a really great run in terms of his skill. But, a big part of why he was the superstar he was had to do with him being white. And he's somebody else who has addressed it in his music. And I thought the way he handled his Grammy was way more sincere, where he just ran down the list of all the rappers who influenced him and inspired him. So, and a lot of those MCs were MCs who had never even been nominated for a Grammy. So I think that was really important. And it was a way of him saying, I'm nowhere without all of these MCs who came before me. As opposed to him saying, posting a screenshot of a text message exchange with somebody else.
That didn't feel good.
It was, and it's also just like, you know what, man, you could have just sent him the text message and then just not posted the screenshot, or you could have done an entirely separate post where you delivered an entirely different message, or you could have pulled a Marlon Brand, sent somebody up to the stage to reject the award. So
I know what you're talking about too. That's why it's funny.
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to being a white rapper, I mean, I learned when I was going to school at the University of Wisconsin, and it was probably true the whole time I've rapped, but the thing that I learned when I was up at UW was that there are white people who gravitate toward white rappers because they're white. So if I'm a white rapper, then I have to be honest with myself and be honest with other people, in that for as much effort as I put into my craft and into making my music, at the end of the day, my being a white rapper does not negate the fact that I'm a white person who's benefited from public institutions that are steeped in white supremacy and whiteness, and that I have white privilege, and that white privilege has allowed me to do certain things in hip hop that some of my contemporaries who are Black might not have been able to have access to because of racial prejudice and implicit bias. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I stand on that. Like, and I don't care about a Grammy. I don't care about awards. I don't care about recognition. Like, at this point, I want my respect when it comes to the skill level, when it comes to my ability to make albums. But beyond that, like, if you can financially support a Black or brown rapper, on Bandcamp Day, do that. You don't have to spend money with me. And that's the other reason why, you know, I just wanted to put stuff out for free download, because I want people to be spending money with creatives of color, especially in the current climate, considering the pandemic, considering that it's exacerbated socioeconomic inequalities, and also just considering the fact that, you know, I'm a white rapper and I have a gig and I don't necessarily need that paper to survive. So I would rather just do what I love, put the product out for free, and hopefully get the respect that comes after that, because that matters way more to me than money does, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you definitely got our respect. That's why we love having you and love. Thanks for being here on our second show at Weekend at Gabe's. It's so great to catch up with you and just have a moment to chat with you. So I'm glad you and the family are doing well.
Likewise, man, and the best to you and your family. And I'm gonna be tuning in. This is really dope. I'm happy to see you back at it.
Nah, man, thank you so much. Yeah, we're gonna try to podcast these and put the audio version out there. It's a one-man team right now, so until I get my son cutting and editing, so I gotta cross train him so he can help out.
Yeah, you gotta teach him young, man.
I know, right? He's been asking. Go follow Defcee on social medias at Defcee, and if you want to support his work, defcee.bandcamp.com is the place to go. Find all the records we're talking about as part of Droptober. Thank you so much again. Enjoy the rest of your night. All right.
No doubt. You too, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate it. All right, coming up in just